Welcome back to Crown's Crypto Cave and another little nice slow down, sit down talk on this beautiful Friday morning. Happy Friday, by the way. And please do let me know if you've been enjoying these standalone videos, as I have been thinking about doing a little bit more of them. Anyways, let's do a little bit of a market wrap up as plenty has happened in the last few days. Well, really the last 24 hours, I'd say. And over here, we have plenty to talk about as we have a full and clear breakdown out of this last rally over here. We were representing this as a nice rising channel starting all the way back here, going on for about 2 weeks or so, and bottom support right around here. And that was broken and confirmed as broken with the advent of about 2 nights ago for myself over here in Helsinki, Finland. That was the timing. Full break on your 2-hour time frame right here, taking us below the 200 exponential, and soon enough, pandemonium ensued. So where does this lead us to now, and how does this change the overall picture? Well, I think that the action of the last 24 to 36 hours leads more and more credence to the idea that, hey, Bitcoin was not in a market shifting rally over there. It was in a reactionary bounce, and the best way to be interpreting this chart right now is the bearish interpretation of essentially a descending triangle over a very long period of time. A very long period of time, meaning almost 9 months ever since January over here. The big turn down, the big meltdown from the good old 20,000 highs. Remember that? Anyways, in the more lower time frames over here, looks like we are just kind of flagging out. I'm going to put it on a 30-minute right now. Yes, indeed, that is a very low time frame, so don't take this as the end-all be-all. But we can definitely represent this as a nice little bear flag right here and a low support coming in right around here, which is important to understand because, you know, when you are kind of bringing down price action, the big deal here, or what you really commonly see, is just bear flag after bear flag after bear flag. That's your big moniker for a bearish market. It's this nice orderly walk down of price action. Now, I'm going to go back to the higher time frames and talk a little bit more about why I believe the best interpretation of this chart is a bearish interpretation and why it's likely going to lead to a break of this area right here. And that is best seen on, well, let's start with the daily. All right, so the daily. When we were marching up above in this rising channel fashion over here, it was sustained on extremely low volume, starting with this guy right here at about the 23rd of August, going all the way through. And if you do notice, the heavier volume candlesticks within this were selling. Culminating this guy right here, and then the volume comes back in. So very, very low volume kind of push up, trudge up, and then big volume kind of breaking it. And that gives also credence to the idea that, hey, you were in a rising channel, which is a more bearishly resolved pattern, or more likely to be resolved to the bearish side. Now, I want to compare this kind of march up in price action with this rally over here and give you an idea of what a real rally can look like. This is a very, 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 very powerful, girthy rally, sustained on actually increasing volume, which was rejected as well. So again, this to me is very indicative that, hey, the bots are on the sell side, the algos are on the sell side, and they were actually giving you a little bit of a trap signal right here with the exponentials, as it ever so briefly kissed the yellow 21 exponential and the green 55 exponential right here before being shoved down, completely rejecting that cross. So to me, that is an extremely obvious sign, a slap in the face signal is what I like to call them, saying, hey, just before this chart was about to signal some sort of, some heftier upwards momentum, it got rejected right at that moment, which tells me that, hey, it was a planned planned trap. I mean, who's really to know about that? But it was a trapping scenario, and we get the real direction, when the volume comes back to the market. Now, again, just kind of wrap up the whole idea of this. We've been living under our 200 simple moving average, this red line right here, for quite some time. Also, the 200 exponential. That's just some of the litmus tests for for generally good, generally bad, or generally bullish, generally bearish, if you want to put in those sorts of terms, right around there. You can also see that, yes, the slope of that blue 30 simple moving average right here is completely flatlined. Even after this nice rally that we put in, Bitcoin or the 30 simple moving average never really gave you a positive upslope, which, again, if you're not familiar with the way that I do technical analysis, the slope of the 30 simple moving average is always the most important to me. and I look at it as like an accelerator for the more recent price action. So if that is to start turning down over here, it would lead me to believe that you are going to see, or it's likely to be, a very, 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 very hefty, girthy movement to the downside if that were to happen. Now, of course, there's always multiple ways of interpreting this chart, but I'm going to keep on going on with the bearish view for just this moment right here. And another big thing to be aware of, especially with this 2-day closing tonight, again at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we can see that a death cross is pretty damn imminent, and if the bulls do not get a rally back above 7100-ish in the next week or so, this cross is inevitable essentially at this point in time, meaning that it's going to happen. It's going to happen if making assumptions here, if bulls are unable to get price action back above 7100 and maintain it above there. And you're probably wondering, hey, Crown, what the hell is this all about? What the fuck is a death cross? And it's just one of those things where a lot of bots, a lot of algorithms, a lot of the just by the nature of their programming are going to respond to a cross like this with intensifying their selling. Now, you're probably familiar when Bitcoin got its regular daily death cross over here, which was a picture perfect one where price action was being all pulled up into it and then spit out, telling us that, hey, yeah, they are on the sell side and they want to force this one down. The 2-day is likely to be an even just 1 degree more intense, or maybe multiple degrees more intense. It's a higher time frame essentially. And what is even the validity of this? Well, why is it even worth talking about? The only other time that Bitcoin's ever had this cross happen in the almost 10-year history of it, and if I can pull you back all the way over here, you can notice that, hey, there's nowhere near that they're crossing. That was the last golden cross, by the way. And it was right over here in 2014. Again, never happened ever again, or just only once in Bitcoin's almost 10-year history, right around here. A similar situation where Bitcoin was kind of, coming off of a major dump in trying to consolidate, and then makes a run for it, and then boom, rejected all the way down. So of course, I know a lot of people are trying to make fractals here and fractals there. Fractals are just one of those weird things that, like, from my sort of background and as a trader on the New York Stock Exchange Arca, no one talks about fractals. It's just a completely crypto thing, I suppose, which doesn't make it bad. It's funny. It's like, what even is, where the fuck did you learn this one? It's fun to look at, but again, when you're looking at historical analysis, I don't want to analyze these guys one-to-one. That's not the way to do it. But what you can do, or at least what I found is helpful, is to look at the way that price action is relating to these exponentials, as that can be smoothed out over time. Because again, a lot of the way that price action unfolds, and the reason why it's similar over time, not just because of human emotions and just human programming and conditioning, ever since we became anatomically modern Homo sapiens, hundreds of thousands of years ago, is also the way that these bots and algorithms are programmed with these, I don't want to say obvious, but very common. Yeah, common's a good word for this. Common inputs. So they respect these things, and over time, that's where you get these similar, eras of price action, so to say, as they do kind of, work around and snake around and morph into these formations. So yes, that's exactly what I'm seeing over here. 3-day is having a nice, or so far having a reaction off the 200 exponential. But again, coming back down to base on this 200 exponential, to me, it's just a matter of time. It's not a sign of strength that it's coming back down here. And with each bounce that it's had off here, well, to be fair, it's only had a couple bounces. They've gotten weaker each time by a higher degree. So to me, that says, by the nature of just coming back to your lows, typically leads to new lows, but the kind of God particle within this equation is the time involved. How long does it take? Well, we might bounce again. We might bounce even all the way up to, actually right over here, about 6,800, and that wouldn't really change too much. And that brings me to my next point. How do you know that Crown is wrong? Crown is an idiot. He has no idea what he's talking about, and he should go kill himself. Well, you should probably just tell me that anyways. But here's what I'd be saying is that you have a very obvious, nice horizontal level coming in right around here from this past prior action, which I would be looking for to act as major resistance if we were to get back around that area, around 6750. And yes, you could make it kind of like a zone, right, in this area right here, 6750 to about 6850, something like that. So as long as you're below there, I believe that it is. I would be looking at this chart with heavy bearish goggles. Now that also brings up the point. Hey, if you start getting above there, I can't be so damn bearish. To be very very clear, so I'm making assumptions here that we stay below this area. As long as Bitcoin is staying below this area right here, I'm gonna mark it off with a blue box, the good old blue box of perhaps prosperity, or perhaps death and decay, right around here. As long as Bitcoin's below this area, I do look at this as a heavily bearish chart, and that means closing below this area. So price action can get all the way back up here to 68.50, and it would still look bearish to me until it actually starts closing at dailies above. Now, with that said, I do want to go back to the 2-day over here, because the 2-day does have a chance today, right? And you have to be wondering to yourself, like, if we were to catch some sort of major BART, or I hate that one as well. It's like a 1 degree worse than a fractal. It's like, what the fuck is a BART, man? You tell me. It's one of those crypto things. I do understand, what happens, but essentially, if we were to get a big move up before the end of the 2-day close tonight, which again does close tonight, if we were to get into this range, then this would start to look like a hammer, obviously. So that would be a game changer as well, in my opinion. Perhaps the initial etchings of that. But again, I'm not leaning towards that happening. I'm just saying, hey, if that were to happen, this is what I'd be thinking. I do not believe my intuition would say that's unlikely to happen. But hey, you never know. And we've all seen crazier things go on with Bitcoin. Let's go over to the weekly. Weekly is pretty interesting right now because we have a bearish engulfing as it stands. Now, obviously, the weekly is not nearly done. It still has, until Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to finish. But hey, if it does end here or lower, just another thing that looks incredibly bearish. Whenever you have a bearish engulfing, I mean, do we even have an example of a bearish engulfing? Yeah, we have one right here. That's the last big one that I see, and it created this nice down move after that. Maybe one right here as well. Nope, just came just a little bit shy over there. So yeah, again, another thing that implies more heftier movement downwards. But again, there's a lot of time before today and Sunday. I do want to point out that so far this weekly has been done on a little bit lower volume than these guys over here. So this was kind of lining up for a 3-line strike, which it does look like we're getting right now. But, again, it's lower volume at this point in time on Friday. There's still a couple more days till Sunday. So, again, I always want to be as balanced as possible. Now, let's go to the more bullish view of this. What's the more bullish interpretation? Well, the bulls still do have this falling wedge idea that we've been talking about, and the measure move on this would actually be suggest, if you were to confirm above here, again, we're well below this, so making a huge assumption here. I'm not leaning towards this happening, but hey, if it did happen, if you did get a 3-day close above 7650-ish area, that would imply a move to about 12,500. I do not believe that this is likely to happen, but hey, it's worth talking about as long as you still have this. I believe the right way to be looking at this chart is as a descending triangle over a very, 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 very long period of time. Again, if this were a falling wedge, you would not want to see this much, the volume increase nearing the end of this as time goes on, especially to the sell side. That would not be what you're looking for from like a pattern identity over there. So yeah, what else do we have to look at? Let's go back on over here to Finex. Let's go check out the longs versus shorts. I do want to talk about this very, very briefly. We have the longs over here. Longs are well below the critical zone of about 33,000, which is where I typically think, the bus is getting a little bit too full and starts to put some pressure on price action. Don't really, they're just kind of dancing around over here. Not really too much to say about them either which way. Almost a non-factor, I'd say, right here, right now. Now, shorts, on the other hand, you hear everyone crying about a major short squeeze. Guys, the shorts are going to be squeezed. We're going back to 10,000 tomorrow. Well, yes, the shorts are pretty damn high. The shorts are too damn high, historically speaking. Now, I do want to point that's out over here. Now, I'm going to put it on an hourly, and you can see, yes, over this past weekend, in the span of about 2 to 3 hours, you saw shorts jump up about 12,000 coins on Finex alone. Margin, mind you. And this tells me that it was very, 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 very unlikely to be just a bunch of retailers putting these shorts on. Extremely unlikely. What's more likely is that it was someone or some entity that was covering a position, I would think. Big professionals playing with this amount of money typically don't do naked long or naked short anything. You're always hedging. So to me, to put on this amount of size, especially, that's probably shy of 100 million, is probably indicative of a single entity covering their spot long positions. Well, do we have any other information that suggests that? And again, I'm making major assumptions here. I don't actually know this. Not that, and no one knows this besides the actual people who did it. If even if it was just one entity, but we saw some major absorption of spot long coins on Finex around 62.50. I'm actually going to put it on the chart right here. Over here, yeah, around 62.50. Tested this area a couple times. 6,400 over here, 6,750 right over here, and then again 6,850, something like that, and then maybe again above 7,000. You saw this hidden wall getting filled and filled and filled and filled, just putting in a very obvious stoppage to price action, forcing all the other exchanges that were going down at the time to basically reverse back up. And I'm sure that people remember this over the last couple of weeks of those hidden bids being filled at significant amounts. Well, to me, it's indicative that, hey, if that person was trading that, or at least what I would be thinking if I were in that position is I would want to be covering around here. And how do I cover and how do I kind of lock in my profits? Well, I can sell margin short, right, against my spot long positions that I bought a little bit lower. And that gives me a lot of, flexibility if price action moves up and onwards, because here's the thing, this person probably also, as everyone here is looking at the same thing, saying, hey, we're getting pretty extended. This rally isn't that strong. So I would rather cover some right here and make sure that my positions, are somewhat locked in. And then, if price action goes above here and confirms that it's ready to break out, I can just take off my margin short position. Yeah, I'll take a small loss, but you know what? I got great positions underneath, and that's all well and good. By the same token, if price action does turn against me, which did happen, whether they deliberately did that or not, we don't know. Not that it matters to begin with, and I always want to be kind of aggressive in saying that it does not matter. It's people are all mad saying they should be bought for fourth. Whoever did this, it was obviously inside the chain. It's like, yeah, well, it's an unregulated market, so even if it is, who are you gonna cry to? But yeah, and the other point is so, hey, you're getting extended over here, so you might as well cover just to protect your profits anyways. And if price action does move against you, you can sell your spot long positions, be already locked in on your margin short higher, and then you add fuel to the downside, which is kind of what we got over here. Now, also very important, we actually do not see any of these shorts really their positions over here. So far, I mean, maybe it's topping out over here. Not that I think that you can do technical analysis on longs and shorts chart. I want to be very, 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 very clear about that. I see people posting on Twitter all the time, like, we have a cup and handle over here, big chads. We have a fib GAN fan over here. It's like, no, you can do Elliott waves on this. No, you can do harmonics. It's like, oh my God, harmonics don't even work when you're doing it in a regular. Anyways, like, what are you trying? Anyways, no, that's just me talking shit over there. Don't heed to that. But my point is that, hey, this person over here who did put up all this, they are not letting them go their position, it looks like. So to me, and what would also kind of align with my experience with bigger accounts is, hey, when you are playing with that amount of money, you're not looking for a measly $1,000 move. No, you're looking for the grand slam. You don't want just a home run. You want the grand slam. And what are you really looking for over here? Well, again, going back into Finex chart, well, I would be imagining that they're probably looking for the big bad break. Now, where would that likely be? We do have this very obvious horizontal right here at about 62.50-ish area on Finex, give or take a few bucks, and that's the next big support in my opinion. It's kind of where Bitcoin has wicked down to and found support off on this last move across most of the exchanges over here. Just checking my mic to make sure it's good. All right, awesome. And that has been a pretty historically important support as well. So that is the next big area that I'm looking for. If Bitcoin were to break 62.50, I do believe very, 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 very strongly that not only would it revisit these prior lows, but it would probably break those prior lows at around 5,800, 5,850. Yes, it probably does bounce around there as things do, and people are going to be calling double bottom, triple bottom, quintuple bottom, sextuple, or I don't even know what goes on after that. But coming back down to your lows to base on them does not, you might bounce around, but it typically leads to new lows over time. Again, the God particle being time. And we've been spending our time really testing this area for the last, year or so. You got one, you can count this as 2 over here, count this as 3, 4, and then, this would be 5. That's too damn many, it's too damn many, and as the saying goes, the more and more that support or resistance is tested, the weaker that it does get theoretically. And you see that represented in the charts, you see a high over here, and then you had a pretty good bounce from 6,000 to 12,000. Not bad. Okay, so $6,000 bounce, and you come back down and you test it again, and you have a pretty good bounce. Another $3,000 bounce all the way to 10,000. Then you come back down again. You test it again, and you have a okay bounce, a little bit weaker, $2,000. And you come back down again, and you have a very weak bounce, only $1,000 on this one before coming back down. So again, the bounces are getting weaker, telling us that the buyers are being shaken out of this pattern rather than the sellers, and the sellers are getting more aggressive over time. Actually, is what it looks like to me. So I do feel pretty damn strongly about this, but again, as always, have to present both sides and be as unbiased as possible. But hey, if you do break 62.50, I'd feel extremely strongly that 58.50 is the next one to break, and if 58.50 breaks, well, there's very little holding this thing up from this area right here at about 48,000. This prior high coming in right around here, also aligning with your high volume node coming in right around there, almost perfectly just encompassing this area. Now, not only do we have that kind of pointing towards there, we also, if we go over here to the Bitstamp chart, we have several other things suggesting a similar move. We have the 786 Fibonacci retracement over here from the ultimate high to the ultimate low of the last market cycle. We have the intersection of this logarithmic downtrend line over here, this 10-year dotted logarithmic uptrend line, which I don't really don't want to go all the way back to show it, but just believe me on that one. And it's also, and again, it's lining up with the horizontal right here. I don't have any measured moves pointing me down there, actually, right here, right now. As you can see, I actually am thinking of this as potentially a major bear flag on the daily over here. Is that right or is that wrong? Well, the problem with it is I don't have anything that tells me that it's wrong just yet. It actually looks okay the more and more that I think about it. Although volume increasing over here without breaking this bottom support is a little bit does call into question. It does call it into a little bit of question. But fair enough. If it is a bear flag, then it would imply a move actually all the way down here to this next blue box territory, which is your 886 Fibonacci retracement, which is actually where you did bottom out in 2014 market cycle. You'll see the 886 coming in right around here, making a stab down to this logarithmic downtrend line right here, and also intersecting with this horizontal guy from the past market cycle. And it accumulated actually for about 10 months between the 886 and the 786, between these two areas right here, finding support along this dotted trend line, again, the 10-year unbroken logarithmic trend line of Bitcoin. So yeah, again, just another thing kind of pointing down there. So you have multiple things. If I put it on the weekly, you'll see very quickly that the weekly has, for the first area at, 4,400-ish area. You have the 200, that purple exponential kind of coming in around that area. And if we were to make a stab at the lower one that we just talked about, your 200 simple, this red line would likely kind of hook around there as well, which is where we did bottom out in 2014. You actually can't see it too well there. We have to go over to the BLX index. And there you go. The BLX index did bottom us out on the 200 simple right there, although it was a little bit of a different situation. So perhaps maybe not the best example. Always want to talk about, limitations of this sort of thing. So, yep. All right. Okay. Let's go look at the longs and shorts data over here on DATADASH. You can see that the shorts are paying 0.012%, which is not high. It's also not low. Longs are obviously paying a little bit lower, but really it becomes an issue from a big account holder's perspective when it starts getting to like 0.05%, 0.07%, and higher than that. That's when you're starting to pay $10,000 a day to hold a $10 million position, shit like that. So do be aware of that. Right now it's not really an issue in my opinion. We got about 6,000 of these shorts are actually hedged. 6,000 are hedged. So that really puts us at like 33,000 open shorts, which is still pretty damn high. What else do we have to look at? Oh, yes, let's go over here. Let's look at BitMEX over here, open positions. And we have, where's the, there it is. So now we have 60% shorts versus 40% longs, which was actually flipped what it was just a few days ago, actually. So you even get the average price of a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys getting short at, oh, these must be newer positions, huh? So yeah, a lot of these guys getting short and long. A lot of these longs actually getting short around 64.50ish to 6,500. Whereas these guys getting short at like 68, 65, 7,000-ish. Yeah, so yeah, 69. There we go. So yeah, a little bit, a little bit more inclusive, but we do have more shorts and longs, which does open up the opportunity for a nice squeeze, which, is always a possibility. So hey, do keep in mind the critical points for today, and this is what I'll kind of leave you off with. Bitcoin, if it does want to give any sort of hint of a reversal, it's going to need to close, in my opinion, the daily above, the 6,800 level right around here. If it does 66.50, that'll be impressive, but I don't think it'd be good enough. Above 6,800 would be above this blue box territory would be where I start saying, hey, okay, I think this might have actually been a bear trap, might have been a fake out, and I can't be bearish right here. I do not want to be short anymore. But as long as we're closing dailies below this blue box territory, I'm very comfortable being short. Lower time frames are looking like a bear flag right here, right now. Let's see. Do we have anything to look at in our oscillators over here? Stochastics just starting to turn down. By the way, daily oscillators, I do want to show this really quick. Your stochastics have basically just started going down. So this thing is telling you that it has plenty of room to move to the downside. RSI is just getting into the bearish zone over here at about 40-ish area. So to me, this thing is saying that, hey, you got plenty of room to go to the downside if you want to. So yeah. Oh, and also I want to close out with this as well. The Bitcoin MBT signal. Again, a little bit of a different way of looking at price action. The calculation is the network value divided by the 90-day moving average of the daily transaction value, which probably doesn't mean too much to you. It doesn't mean much to me either. But when you look at this over here, it starts to make a lot of sense when it's calling the tops pretty damn well. 2013 perfectly, end of 2013 perfectly, bull trap 2014 perfectly, high end of 2017 perfectly, and we're actually at the third highest level it's ever been. In fact, we are at the same level that it had been in late of 2017. We're just like a tick or two lower. So this is quite literally the third high it's ever been. So this is suggesting that we are in for a major drop, and that would align with the bottom dropping out scenario that I kind of presented over here, which is a scenario that I do lean towards, and I hope that I've been consistent in saying this, that I do believe Bitcoin will make lower lows before this is all said and done. But hey, there's always possibility for, the other interpretation. That's why we went over the falling wedge idea for the bulls. There's also a ton of shorts on the table, so that if they do want to get squeezed, they can, although it doesn't look like too many of them are under pressure. So yeah, at the end of the day, that's what I have to say about that, in that just in that I can't even come up with any unique words over here. Jesus Christ, Crown. So again, to wrap it up in just a few sentences over here, key support 6250. As long as you're above there, you're safe from the next big area at about 5850, 5800-ish area. That's officially your big support. However, in my opinion, if you do break 6250, I don't see any reason. I see it becomes extremely likely that you break the bottom of that barrier, even if you do come down to 5850 and bounce, maybe even bounce all the way back up and test 6250. Very possible indeed. But I do believe strongly that you would shatter that 5850 support, over time. Again, the time component is the variable here. We don't know how long it's going to take. There's no way to know that, but I'd say that it just becomes extremely more likely. And again, I will basically be maintaining that sort of idea as long as, in key point, Bitcoin is closing dailies below the blue box territory over here. That also means that Bitcoin can come all the way back up here and test this area, and it would still be bearish until it actually closes above this area. And just really quickly, let's go over the lower time frames once again. 1 hour death cross creating a bear flag. Stochastics crossing down. RSI creating no divergence here actually, but no divergence just yet, but it does look like it's losing the 21 exponential right there. 2 hour is death crossed as well, official. And these actually do look like they want to bounce up a little bit, to be honest with you. 3 hour stochastics crossed up, so that would be suggesting a little bit of upside here. Maybe take a leg up. 4 hour. Not really creating any divergences, but also stochastics crossing up, so could be hinting at a leg up over here. Again, am I buying this? Absolutely not. And this is the next big point that I want to talk about, because a lot of people have been reaching out to me saying, Crown, I bought that support and then it got broken. It's like, yes, when you're in a heavy downtrend, I don't want to be buying supports. I want to be closing my shorts at supports. And hopefully I've been very, 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 very clear in stating this, because essentially once we broke this rising channel right here, and really after this first big move down, I don't really see any reason to be trying to BTFD, because it seems that the bears are revealing their hand and they really do want to force price action down here. And I don't want to be on the wrong side of a big, fat, girthy red candlestick. So again, I'm probably going to leave it off with that. Lower time frames, again, just looking like a bear flag right now. But hey, if you do take out this area over here, if you do pop above 65.50, I don't see much stopping you from this area over here at around 67.50, 6800-ish. So do be aware of that. I'm not necessarily adding to shorts here. I've closed a little bit of my shorts at 63.50, so I didn't catch the ultimate bottom. But hey, I'm not a perfect trader. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm thinking over here. I'm just thinking if I did miss anything. Did I miss anything? Hopefully not. Well, you know what? I'll be back on later tonight anyways to do a live stream. So I hope to see you there. Again, I also do want to remind you that, hey, I have the sale for the technical analysis program is still going on. If you are interested in that, definitely check it out. 20% off with the discount code in all capitals. You old, quite literally YOUOLD, one word. And the link to that is in the description of this video. So definitely check that out. Of course, I just want to make sure that the people who aren't in that sort of material, you get access to it at the discounted price. And if you're not, well, fair enough. I'll keep on doing these live streams anyways for free. And so yeah, that's going to do it for this morning. I look forward to seeing you guys later tonight. Take care and see you soon.